अस्सलाम वालेकुम नाजरीन, कश्मीर लाइफ के आज के शुमारे ड्रीम बिग सीजन 2 में एक बार फिर से आप सबका इस्तकबाल है। आज हमारे साथ मौजूद है ताहा फिरदौस शाह, जिन्होंने अपने बैचलर्स सेंट स्टीफेंस कॉलेज दिल्ली से हासिल किया है। शी हैज डन हर एमफिल इन मॉडर्न साउथ एशियन स्टडीज from University of Cambridge and is currently pursuing her PhD in religion at Emory University, United States, with a full 5 year scholarship and fellowship. So today we will be in conversation with her and we will get to know how did she manage it all. So सबसे पहले Taha, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you,
Thank
Mema, and
you.
thank you, Kashmir Life, for inviting me.
So starting with the session, Taha, please tell us and provide us insights into your background, your personal details, education, and professional trajectory.
Well, I grew up in Kashmir, in Srinagar, and come from an area that lay sandwiched between upper town and downtown in Karanagar. I spent my early years, my childhood in Karanagar itself. I went to Mallinson School in Sheikh Bagh, where I did my high school and also my higher secondary when I pursued +1, +2 in medical stream. It was later after my 12th that I realized that I wanted to switch my career path in terms of wanting to do humanities and liberal arts in particular. That I decided to move to the University of Delhi, where I pursued my bachelor's in English literature and history from St. Stephen's College in Delhi. And then I later moved to Cambridge to do my MPhil, and I'm currently in Emory University doing my PhD.
Taha, delving into your specifics, that is your MPhil experience. Can you elaborate on the application process and how did you manage to acquire the partially funded scholarship at the university?
It was at the start of my undergraduate degree at Delhi University that I realized that I wanted to move abroad and pursue my master's abroad. So the entire application process in terms of creating a holistic CV started from then. The university applications, especially when you're applying abroad, start at least a year early. And I planned a year and a half ahead as to where I wanted to go, what I wanted to study, and how I wanted to pursue getting a scholarship, so to say. The college application started in September or at the start of October, and I made applications as early as possible, giving myself time to also submit my scholarship applications. I received a full maintenance and college accommodation support, and some part of my tuition was also covered by the University of Cambridge. It was an internal scholarship that was given to me by my college where I was at the university. It was internally, and I did not have to apply for separate scholarships.
Taha, as you did your MPhil in modern South Asian studies, outlining key insights gained from the subject matter, can you tell us what were the major takeaways from it?
The first and foremost thing that you get to gain as you move abroad or move out of your country is to meet with new people. Meeting with new people means meeting with minds that are diverse in terms of how they want to think, culturally, socially, and of course, traditionally as well. And I was pursuing a course that did not have to do anything with the UK in particular, but meant entirely discussing South Asia, not just from their lens, but from the lens of diverse students of various backgrounds. We were a cohort of, say, 13 people coming from many parts of India, Pakistan, and Bangladesh. And it was a great opportunity for me to think about modern South Asia in particular. There I got to discuss many facets of South Asia, say politics, economics, religion, anthropology, and of course, history. That was my expertise.
My question to you is what initially sparked your interest in studying religion and Sufism in Kashmir?
First thing to say is I was the first one in my family to move away from traditional career choices of, say, doing engineering and doctors. There are nearly 10 to 15 doctors in my family and countless engineers. And I am the only person in my entire family who has pursued a career in humanities. ऐसा बिल्कुल नहीं है कि अदबी ज़ौक नहीं था या शौक नहीं था। तहकीक की बातें बहुत घर पे होती थी, लेकिन शायद इसको करियर के तौर से परस्यू नहीं करना चाहता था, गिवन अभी भी किस तरीके से ह्यूमैनिटीज या लिबरल आर्ट्स को सोचा जाता है कश्मीर में. That actually led me to move to Delhi and find my identity in the sense of what I was wanting to do. And then later on, I thought, yeah, I should go to the United Kingdom to do that. It was one day that I was speaking to a professor at my college who said to me that as a scholar, one should always choose a topic that they wanted to read on. And if they see that there's nothing written about it in the sense that they wanted to engage with, they should just pick that up. Kashmir, as it is, has always been, caught between the idea of how politics defines it or how history has placed it. But there is so much less on sociology, about people's experiences, and religion as a part of people's life that is not discussed well in detail. This made me think that that's something that I wanted to read on, especially as a child. I used to spend all my days picnic or say free time where my parents took me to these dargahs or khankas in particular in Kashmir and thought that it was an outing. We used to go to Makhdoom Sab and climb those stairs, and my father thought that was a trekking expedition, so to say. And he used to tell me, uh, wasn't that fun for you? But there was more to it, the kind of peace that was associated to it, the kind of people that I would look around me and see making prayers. And I found that nobody had really discussed them in length and detail. This brought me to do my master's at Cambridge, where I worked not just on Sufism in Kashmir, but I did an ethnography of women's experiences in these dargahs as to how they find peace and respite in these dargahs, which is now in continuation to what I am doing my PhD on.
Taha, do share with us the narrative of your transition to the United States, for studies at Emory University, particularly the acquisition of a full 5 year scholarship that you have acquired and a fellowship as well. So, give us details on the application process as well.
When I went from my bachelor's to my master's, I directly jumped in the sense I graduated in July with my bachelor's and moved to the UK in September to do my master's, having no experience at all or just doing whatever I could do, at least in a 3 year degree, which was basically squeezed into 1.5 years of me doing it in person and a year and a half me doing it online because of the pandemic. When I was doing my master's at Cambridge, did I realize that there were many other places that I could apply to, especially in consideration of wanting to find a good supervisor who I could work with, who had a perfect expertise in terms of how I wanted to pursue my research. That brought me to the United States, not just in terms of me wanting to complete a degree, but delving deeper into an academic inquiry, so to say. The US in particular allows you to do a 2 year long coursework before you finally start writing your thesis. So that was something that I looked at when I was in the UK wanting to pursue a PhD. I applied to a couple of universities and also made it to some of them. So as I was applying for my PhD, again, that is to say, the application processes start at least a year ahead. When you're applying for a more specialized program, such as a PhD, it does not just matter for you to look at a particular university, but also to look at a relevant department that matches your expectations in terms of the kind of research that you want to do. And not just the department, but also a particular supervisor who has a relevant expertise in your field, if not a direct expertise, but at least relevant in the sense that they can help you imagine or put together your research in place. That brought me to apply to a couple of universities in the US, and I received scholarship from some. To apply to Emory University in particular, I have a full 5 year funding offered by the Laney Graduate School, which runs our graduate department. And I also have a Woodruff Fellowship. I'm a Woodruff Scholar here, which is an additional fellowship that I have received from Emory University to pursue my PhD. That has to do with not just my academic records, but the extra leadership and extra co-curricular activities that I was a part of throughout my career.
So, as a student focusing on anthropology, religion, and studies, Please shed light on your current research pursuits in your doctoral program and whatever you're doing or you're currently investigating on.
So I began my PhD later last year in August, and I've just finished a semester here at Emory, and I'm now beginning my second semester. I'm doing a coursework right now for the next year and a half, which makes me read and study religious studies, particularly Islam. I am chronologically looking at the historiography of Islam in the larger global context. And then we'll be discussing Islam in South Asia and then coming to Islam in Kashmir and how Sufis have played a role. My research interests lie at the intersection of not just Islam as a religious study, but Islam in engagement with people, with cultures, and how it has been also a propagator of peace in Kashmir.
So, Taha, I wanted to ask you because I'm quite curious about it, and it's quite an inquisitive question. So, how does your academic exploration of religion and Sufism intersect with your personal beliefs or spiritual journey? And are there any misconceptions or particular challenges about Sufism in Kashmir that you aim to address through your study?
That's a very good question, Mema. As a child growing up in Kashmir, especially given the kind of spiritual or lagav, as you would say, we have with Sufism in particular. For Sufism, basically, these Sufis got Islam to Kashmir, if you were to look at it historically. I grew up with in a family, I think you would relate to it as well, and almost all Kashmiris would relate, where we did not have really an agency to go for picnics or do a lot of entertainment. So picnics to my parents in particular meant taking us to Magdum Sobun or Khanka for evening prayers or for Asr prayers. That is how I was introduced to these dargahs in particular. But there was more to it in the sense I used to enjoy looking at people, looking at the kind of prayers that they made or the kind of congregation that there was, especially for women folk, where they engaged, spoke. There were these separate groups where women not only offered prayers but also discussed their familial issues or uh, had a kind of bond that they created. There was a Later, when I was doing my research, I came to know that there are these friend circles that there are in these dargahs where people meet, talk, especially women, and find some sort of respite. Or there, in colloquial languages, we would call it for men. Men have a vanapyand, where women did not really have it. So uh, I thought of it as their sense of agency in the sense. Putting these things together, I thought this is something that nobody has discussed, not just in the sense of me discussing it socially or culturally, but to think of Islam, but to think of Sufism in particular as a propagator or as an agency which not only, of course, allows for spiritual elevation, but also gives people an agency for respite and consolation in their, not just in their social, but in their spiritual life as well. Talking about the challenges that I face as I'm working on it, there's a larger debate on within the scholars working on Islam or any religious study that who should do it. Especially, it has to do with you having the same religious faith as a practicing Muslim. And in my case, it was not just me wanting to discuss Sufism in particular or Islam in particular, but also to discuss it in Kashmir that I came from. So there's a lot of bias that comes in between in terms of how you would want to think about it, wanting to narrate a particular kind of story, or giving in your insights time and again as you are discussing things with your interlocutors or reading about Kashmiri history, which you think is not which at times you think is not something that has been greatly discussed or has been, kept in dark in a sense. So there are a lot of challenges that come in between, but in pursuit of being a not just a scholar, but a rational scholar, but true to not just my own homeland, but also to the larger academic industry. So I try my best to be as neutral as possible in my research, to be able to do justice not to the academic inquiry that I am pursuing, but also to put forth the correct stance of the history that I want to discuss.
So, concluding the session, Taha, is there any advice you may want to offer to people out there watching you, or any insights you may have for individuals navigating similar academic and scholarship pursuits?
My message to all the students who are currently pursuing humanities or want to pursue a career in humanities or liberal arts in particular would be to plan ahead of your time. As I said in our conversations early on, that always try to ask yourself this question: what is it that is missing in my field in particular that I wanted to read on? That's the best way to be able to explore or work on your own research interests. Never stop believing in yourself in whatever you are doing. Just be truthful and honest to your work, and I think you will always bear fruit for it.
Thank you so much, Taha, for joining us for this session today. We wish you all the best.
Thank you so much, Umaima. It was really good speaking to you, and I wish you all the best.